Okay, this is part 2 of the July 2022 Neon Pickup Tour videos. Part 1 link is in the description, and today I'm looking at all the non-working signs that I brought home. I'm starting with this one because I hope it's an easy fix. It just came without a transformer and I can't see any tube breaks. It's quite dirty and greasy, and greasy usually has two causes. Either it was in a restaurant or the grease from these electrode sleeves. Those electrode sleeves that connect two electrodes pointing at each other, I don't really like them because I always think they make a sign stiff and more fragile. And the manufacturers usually put grease in them to slide them on easier, and I think it's just Vaseline, because Vaseline melts in higher temperatures, so it just runs out or evaporates out here and makes all the sign parts shiny and greasy. So this sign is from the times when there still were magnetic transformers and the transformer is just missing. And a few tube supports are broken. So I'm just carefully pulling those high voltage wires to the front now and try to connect. Oh, they are very hard wires. I'll carefully pull off the electrode boots because I have to do that anyway. So one cable goes to that reserve outline, and the other goes to the reserve tube. Now let's see what we have. Yeah, I think it has a problem because we can hear some arcing. And I can help it turn on. It's probably a loose connection in a sleeve. So this wasn't as easy as I expected. So now I'll try to slide this sticky sleeve here down so I can just connect the reserve and the outline to test that. And if I can't slide it down, I have to cut it open. Ah, all the tubes are greasy. That's annoying. And then you can usually slide it in one direction so far that you can reach the wires. And it's off. Here, see that? Okay, so now if I open up this connection, I can exclude the reserve word from the circuit and see if that word has the problem. Start the sign. No, it still doesn't start, so the reserve word is probably fine. So now I can try to run the reserve word only, and that should be okay. If it's low on gas or close to failing, then usually you feel a strong tingle with your finger or a buzzing when you touch just the one tube that's powered by the transformer. So I would assume this tube is okay and one of the others has the fault. So now I have to isolate the other tubes and test them one by one. And we have more greasy sleeves. So I think I'll isolate this one next, the eagle head, and this because I thought it was not blinking as bright as the others. So as I have opened the connection here, I'm probably just gonna take it out of the sign. And the problem with these sleeves is sometimes the wires poke out and into the sleeve, and then you can't slide it off anymore. So yeah, that happens. You just need a bit of force to work on these signs, and that was too much. So now I can just hope that that was the defective tube, so it would have to be remade anyway. Okay, I'm taking off the yellow wings tube now because it's broken anyway, and it will just help me continue find the fault. And another greasy sleeve. I hate greasy sleeves. Can test this tube. And I think this is the defective tube. So the bird's wings were alright, but I broke them, so I have to remake them with yellow glass. See that this tube, although it's really short, can't be started by the transformer, so there's just something wrong with this tube, I assume. So this was the culprit, I think, and those two should work, and I'll probably make the broken eagle head and the wings, or I'll just resize the sign to the Miller reserve. And I'll just remove that other greasy sleeve and put a wire to the Miller, so I have all the tubes that are still left running and can test them at once. And I'll carefully remove that tube with the broken opening upwards, in case a little ball of mercury would roll out, so I'm rolling this out in a sealed container later for recycling. And I'm keeping the broken tube so I can draw a pattern for the new one. I have jumpered the remaining tubes to test them. This is of course not the correct high voltage wire, and I won't touch it. I just have no correct wire here at the moment. So we have a circuit with these 3 remaining tubes, and they are working. So I think I'll save that sign and bend new eagle wings for it and a new eagle head. And that might be a future video or not. Okay, so I bring this sign to the other workshop and add some rear feet for it to stand on its own, which I usually do on all of my signs, so I can store them easier. So we can look at the next sign here. Better luck this time. I know which tubes are broken and I will not break any more. So we have a broken 7-up is all one tube, and a broken stripe on the can that is connected with a straw, and on this side the ring is a separate tube. On the second 7-up can that I picked up, the ring and all the red parts are one common tube. So again we have some shitty greasy sleeves, although they don't look as greasy as on the Miller. And I will first try to remove this one, and I'll cut it open again, so that I can take out the broken parts of the 7-up and use them to make a pattern for a new tube. So let's carefully cut this and hold the remaining can tube so I don't put too much force on it. Maybe I'll hold the electrode. So this part I'll again check over a container if there's any mercury left. So basically I will hold it like this to have it drop out of the electrode to the lowest point, and then twist it all around until it rolls out this end, and then over my sealable container I'll drop the mercury in. That's that. And I have to take out all of the 7-up script because it's broken, so I'll just cut open all these wires. So I assume this little ring here is working. And there's another stupid sleeve I have to cut open. It's this one, so I can feed power in to test the remaining tubes and remove this broken straw and stripe tube. So let's connect the unbroken tubes and see if they light up. I really completely forgot to bring jumper wires. Okay, I have them all jumpered and wired to the transformer. Again, of course, not a correct jumper wire, and I won't touch the sign when I test it, just to see. Hey, I didn't break any more tubes. Okay, we have a bit of aging over here. This could be a fault from manufacturing, that they just heated this too much and molten the phosphor into the glass. Or a bit of contamination, but it doesn't look so bad. And I noticed a bit of a smell, so let me just show you this problem that occurs when you change a sign from an old school to an electronic transformer. We have very tight spacing here, and we have a little arc that is already burning off the blockout paint. I'm not sure if you can see the arc. So I have to take care of this place and improve the distance. Maybe it will not be a problem when the 7-Up text is wired back in, because the order of the tubes will be a different one then. So that's okay. I was expected these parts to work. Alright, next sign. Light Super Bowl. I have just pulled off an electrode sleeve and found another problem that I didn't know of. And that is both electrode wires are torn off this electrode from the light tube. And I'm not sure if that was the cause why it was sold as not working, or if it happened during transportation. I can't really see any burn marks or copper balls on the wires, so it probably just happened in transport. And those are just cheap electrodes with the solid wires. There are electrodes with stranded wires that are not as sensitive to this problem, but this keeps happening on solid wire electrodes. And this is the end with the tubulation. So it will be very difficult to file off a bit of glass and try to contact these wires again. So I have to do that at home in the other workshop where I have all the tools. And so I'll just check with this sign if the light box and the red border are working. That looks alright. The light box is pretty dim, probably because it was off for many years, but I can see on the side in the holes in the back cover that it's lighting up in white. Okay, last sign on this medium successful day. Coca-Cola, all clear red tubing, so no mercury. This letter is broken, and I'm going to open the housing up to take the tube out and to test the other tubes. And I have to peel out this strain relief of the power cord because I can't open the housing. Okay. So this is all one tube, and that should be possible to fix. So I just remove this tube and take it home to draw a pattern on paper. And these have an unusual heat shrink only electrode sleeve, so I carefully have to cut this open. Okay. These tubes come with me. Like that. And then I can connect these wires to check the remaining cola part. And that works. Let's just see if the dimmer works. Yep. Okay. So that's all for today. Not everything went as planned, but that's still alright because the middle reserve side where I broke apart, I only paid 50 euros for that, so that's okay. I needed another success moment that night because not everything went as I hoped. So I took the light sign home to the workshop and was actually able to fix that tube with both the electrode wires broken off. And I'll show you how I did that with my Microsoft Paint skills. First of all, there is a high risk of breaking and completely losing the tube when you try that, so remember that. Wear safety goggles, and also even if you get it working, you might have a higher risk of arcing in the electrode than before. Okay, from left to right, we start with 2 flush broken wires, and then I file out the glass with a regular file or diamond file like picture 2 shows, and not more than halfway down. This area is what makes the tube vacuum tight, and you could develop a leak along those molten in wires, and then the tube is also lost. Be very careful not to hit the tubulation with the file, and you could put some electrical tape on it to protect it. When filing has reached the wires, I use a sharp pointy tool to bend the wire stumps outward. And then I use some fine strands of copper wire from an old power cord to twist around both sides wire stumps, forth and back as shown here in blue. You can cover that with a heat-resistant super glue, or optionally you can solder, but that's another risk of breaking the tube because of the heat shock to the glass. So if you want to solder, do that as quickly and shortly as possible. I've tried this fix about 5 times now and was lucky each time, and also today. The electrode is mirrored on the inside, which means that it has some wear already and was probably not processed very good. But the tube works and the electrodes don't run too hot, so that might be quite okay for some more time. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Please come back for more and subscribe. Bye then.